With faith and courage, we can perform great deeds and take freedom's next step. And we will. We will carry on the tradition of a good and worthy people who have brought light where there was darkness, warmth where there was cold, medicine where there was disease, food where there was hunger, and peace where there was only bloodshed.
He was born in Illinois and grew up in a small town called Dixon, 100 miles west of Chicago. His mother raised him with an optimistic faith that said each man could make something of himself, make the world a better place. He was a local sports hero and a lifeguard, and he kept notches in a log for each of the 77 rescues he made on the job. He put himself through school at Eureka College, where he played first string guard in the football team and led a revolt against the president when he tried to cut back faculty. The president resigned. He graduated in 1932 and went on to a career in film, starring in 14 movies and serving as president of the Screen Actors Guild. He entered politics at age 50, running for the California governor's seat under a campaign with two pronounced goals: to send the welfare bums back to work and to clean up that mess at Berkeley. 14 years later, he was elected President of the United States, an office he carried with dignity and grace. He implemented an economic policy system that bears his name, and he was given a name, the Great Communicator, for his ability to inspire others with ideas. He was shot and suffered a punctured lung in an attempt on his life in 1981. And when the First Lady rushed to his side in the emergency room, he said, "Honey, I forgot to duck." In 1984, he was re-elected by an electoral vote of 525 to 13. As a two-term president, he led a nation through a decade, a recession, and a Cold War. He led nations out of tyranny. And at the end of his career, Ronald Wilson Reagan said, "I never meant to go into politics, but I was raised to believe you had to pay your way for the blessings bestowed on you."
Those who knew the man described him as an engine of ambition. At Eureka, a small, little-known Christian liberal arts school dedicated to training leaders for society, Reagan assumed a variety of leadership positions simply because there was no one else to assume them. Later, one of his White House advisors remarked, "He's the most warmly ruthless man I've ever seen." He was a Time Man of the Year, was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II, and an aircraft carrier is christened in his name. Reagan's ambition earned him the reputation of being self-important and self-absorbed. People said that he was confident in his own sufficiency, that he was a self-made man, and that he neither wanted nor needed anyone else. But that wasn't true. For one, there was Nancy, to whom he wrote, "Whatever I treasure and enjoy, all would be without meaning if I didn't have you." But besides his wife, there was another to whom his life was dedicated. After narrowly escaping assassination, Reagan said, "I've always believed that we were, each of us, put here for a reason, that there is a plan, somehow a divine plan for all of us. I now know that whatever days are left to me belong to him." On his way to success, Reagan faced his share of setbacks: an alcoholic father, being fired from CBS because of his political beliefs, 2 failed presidential bids, Iran-Contra, where Reagan learned from his hardships that nothing came without a fight. And he learned from his mistakes that he was not perfect, that he was not sufficient, and that he could only succeed because God was in control. During his presidency, critics made much of pictures of Reagan alone in his office, making important decisions about domestic and foreign policy. Where were his advisors, they asked? Why was he alone? But the truth was, Reagan wasn't alone. He was on his knees.
Quintilian, the great Roman orator, defined rhetoric as the good man speaking well. The true statesman, the true rhetorician, he said, was not just an eloquent man gifted in the arts of speech and persuasion, but a man committed to a life of virtue and truth. You see, Reagan's world had seen its fair share of well-spoken men, but these men had the worst of intentions. Men who championed the worker, yet left him in poverty. Men who advocated the common good, yet sent them to hard labor and death. Under the rule of these these evil men, but well-spoken evil men, millions of people were stripped of their human liberties, of their agency, of their will to fight. But when these powerless and oppressed people heard Ronald Reagan speak, they heard the leader of the world's most powerful nation stand up and take up their banner and defend their rights, not as an American, not as an ally, but as a fellow human being. At the sound of this good man speaking well, something stirred in the hearts, something long dormant stirred in the hearts of humans across Central Europe, something that hadn't stirred in years: hope. Many of us, we look at Reagan today and we know him as the great communicator, noted for his charisma, his good looks. But you see, Reagan wasn't necessarily fond of that name. He disliked it, saying that there was always something greater behind his words. "I wasn't a great communicator," Reagan said, "but I communicated great things."
In 1977, Reagan told his foreign policy advisor, "My idea of the Cold War is that we win and they lose." It's impossible to communicate just how unthinkable this was at the time, when the Soviet Union was at the height of its power. Experts said, what does this B-movie actor think he knows about foreign policy? And even Reagan's most hawkish advisors saw his rhetoric as just that, rhetoric. They said, that'd be nice, but it's never going to happen. Reagan believed it could happen, and then he acted, working to make good on his promise to banish Marxism to the ash heap of history. He accelerated the arms race, and he built up America's armed forces, daring the Soviets to keep up. But most importantly, through his policies and through his leadership, he made it possible for those living under Soviet tyranny to believe in their own freedom. Taken together, it was all too much. Moscow buckled under the weight, and Reagan was proved right. We won. They lost.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Now, if you know the House of Reagan, you've heard those words before. But in the same speech, Reagan went on to say from the Brandenburg Gate, "As I looked out at the wall a few moments ago, I saw words crudely spray painted on it that said, 'This wall will fall. Beliefs become reality.'" Reagan was right. That wall did fall. But it didn't fall because of bombs, and it didn't fall because of firearms. It fell because there was a belief in faith, and in truth, and in freedom. And it's that conviction we have here today. That when men of faith act with strength and courage in pursuit of truth and freedom, beliefs can become reality. Whether that's the belief that millions in Eastern Europe can be freed for the first time in their lives, or it's the belief that the son of an alcoholic can become president, or it's the belief that men from across the country and across the world can become brothers, bound by the principles of loyalty and fraternity and honor. Beliefs can become reality. And that's why we stand today confident that the House of Ronald Reagan exists to equip and encourage its members to be God-fearing men of integrity who take calculated risks while persevering in the pursuit of a significant life.
With faith and courage, we can perform great deeds and take freedom's next step, and we will. Let us be sure that those who come after will say of us in our time, that in our time we did everything that could be done. We finished the race, we kept them free, We kept the faith. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless America.